He is the answer to Squirrel Girl. He's the answer to Squirrel Girl. I promise. He is literally the direct answer to Squirrel Girl. So I completely forgot to make an intro. So hi, my name is Kaysa. I'm online and I'm talking about Marvel Rival characters I believe should be a part of the actual game moving forward. Okay, so I've just had the longest weekend of technological issues that I guess someone can have in such a short period. I guess there could be worse. My PC was literally in pieces. Long story short, I had bought some pieces for my brother to add to my PC. My PC is built. My brother has physically built it and I just bought the pieces. But that turned into me having to buy a whole new motherboard, RAM, and power supply, of which the upgrades were supposed to be just adding the liquid coolant and a new power supply. But the power supply that I had was incompatible, and then something happened with my motherboard where we couldn't use it anymore. And over the course of 2 days, I was unable to play any video games on my PC because it was literally in pieces. And it made me come to realize just how much I relied on playing video games on my PC or just interacting with my PC. I sat on the couch watching Twitch streams on my phone instead of watching my actual television. It kind of dawned on me that I just, I was so addicted to Marvel Rivals. I was kind of getting jealous that I was watching other people play Marvel Rivals. Like, it was a problem. I will be linking my GoFundMe below because I had to shell out a lot more money than I had anticipated, which was more than $0 because I had the pieces already bought over like months ago. I just haven't had my brother come up to put it in. And then when he did, add the pieces. Anyway, I want Marvel Rivals to take some of my ideas because I'm just interested and curious about what could be next. Now, we already had some leaks on some characters that is supposed to be upcoming. Everybody already knew before Emma Frost was announced that Emma Frost was going to be the next character to come out, or one of the next characters to come out. We already have confirmed Ultron and Blade as well, and we have an idea of what their power sets are going to be. Ultron is supposed to be a strategist from what I last heard, and Blade is supposed to be a duelist, right? They also have other lists that I think I saw. I don't know if they're going to stick to it, but they're supposed to have Professor X, Deadpool, Jean Grey, Cyclops, Captain Marvel, Angela, Daredevil, Armor, Hive, Forge, Amaranth, White Fox. So those are the next 14 that are supposed to be supposedly already planned, or from what I also heard in the metadata that for data miners to try to find and then maybe steer them in the wrong directions. So there's only confirmation so far about Ultron and Blade. And I would say Cyclops and Professor X. I would say like some of the larger names in there are probably going to be in the game as well because of everyone knows Cyclops and stuff. Like, they're pretty household names at this point. But I won't stem from the fact that like when it comes to the game, it also has characters I don't know. Like, I didn't know who Psylocke was prior to this game, and now I main her, or at least I'm trying to. But now it just brought an idea, like why I want to add some suggestions. So I'm going to give you some X-Men names. I did a light research. I'm not like a super nerd into comics. If you watch any of my other videos, you can tell I'm not trying to be. But I'm just like, oh, this is kind of fun. Like, if I could pick a character, because that's been the question people has asked me. If you could pick a character, who would you want to be in the game? My first instinct was a specific character, and I'm going to tell about that first. But just know, in this video, I'm going to give you the character that I would like. I'll try to tell you what their general power is, and then what role I think they would play best in Rivals and why. It might be obvious for some, and it might be a conversation to have, okay? So don't judge me. This is just me hanging out. So my choice and who I'm going to introduce as the first person to add would be Nightcrawler. I just like Nightcrawler. He can teleport, he can climb on walls and all that stuff. Also, he's super smart, and he's a pilot, and also he is a medic. So, and he can do camouflage as well. So I put him as a strategist. Can you imagine being able to essentially be the dive character strategist I think we need to start playing around with the type of characters that we do have. And I think Nightcrawler being the type to be able to do camouflage, to be crawling on walls and everything, has that sort of mobility and or defense to be able to start healing the team in a completely different strategic way. Less about standing either very, very far away or at an angle, and more about being, in my opinion, the person who's going to be able to dive straight in to heal wherever they need to heal. So I do think Nightcrawler could potentially play a role where perhaps he is not entirely healing first. Like Adam Warlock and Mantis, they are not healing main characters, especially Mantis. Her healing abilities is really dependent on how her life orbs are set up and what you do with the damage to gain the life orbs. And I think Nightcrawler can be that for the strategist team. So he would be essentially, in my opinion, a dive character, less healing focused, but still in the strategist and healing support area. So annoying, but for strategists. My next choice would be Havoc. I didn't know this, found this out the other day, but Havoc is the brother of Cyclops and Vulcan is too. They are all three brothers there. However, Havoc has ambient energy, and I would place him as a Vanguard. Based on what I read, not only is he able to have energy powers the same way that Vulcan and Cyclops does, but it's to the extent that he was able to survive being thrown into a star. He defeated Vulcan, he defeated Magneto, he rendered Hulk unconscious, and is said that he can probably either rival Cyclops or maybe even be more powerful than Cyclops. And we know Cyclops, he's that guy, but Havoc, I think, playing the role of a Vanguard, because I think Cyclops is going to be a duelist when introduced to the game. He might not, he might be a Vanguard, that's fine too. But I think Havoc would play a good role as an actual Vanguard based on how much damage he can make and how much, essentially energy that he can contain within himself. Like, he is his own stronghold at that point. The next one is kind of just like a throw-in. I was kind of stuck between Colossus and Juggernaut, but in the end I kind of ruled with Colossus, mainly because Juggernaut just has a little bit too many, I guess you could say, too many invulnerabilities that I feel like would take me out of the play in the game. Like if they put Juggernaut in there and then they say that you can shoot him down or do this X, Y, and Z with him, I feel like whatever, it's still gonna be a game. But Juggernaut, literally his only weakness is just what is it called, like telepathy or psychic sort of attacks, which is why he wears that weird ass helmet that he has. That's his only weakness. Everywhere else he's just invulnerable, super healing and all that stuff. And it's weird to say, but I feel like if you're playing a video game, you would at least want a character that you can feel like you can beat to some extent. I know I was just talking about how Havoc is super duper strong and everything, and Juggernaut is not invincible, but I can't imagine in the realm of Marvel Rivals how you would coordinate unless you have a mechanic to knock off his helmet every single time. But the reason why I put him next to Colossus is because I feel like Colossus falls in the same category of the Hulk, essentially. And not in the sense of how the power necessarily works, but more like he turns on his metal form. He actively chooses to be in the metal form, super strength ability, all that stuff. He has every single ability, it's just he's now in a more metallic form. And of course I would put him as a Vanguard in that case. I think the real reason why I weigh Colossus and Juggernaut to be in the same way is because they're both in Deadpool 2. And based on just the movie influencing me and my thoughts about these characters alone, I feel like they're just the same character in terms of just abilities and how they approach their abilities. Not the same character, obviously completely different personalities. But it's just if I'm thinking of a game, I would choose between Colossus and Juggernaut. Also, Colossus is Magic's brother, so it could be fun dialogue or team ups from there as well. Which also, that's another thing. Team ups could be going crazy with these type of characters, but My next submission would be Kitty Pryde, or Shadow Cat, and she is the one you see phasing through walls. That is her ability. She's intangibility. She can also do combat and everything, and I think she would do well as a duelist, like a basic duelist, hand-to-hand combat, but would be able to phase through walls and everything. So that will give her an edge, obviously. Now there's other things you can add, like weapons and, you know, everything else, because Shadowcat, she's really good at what she does, and I almost put her as a strategist, and she may also work well as a strategist as well, because can you imagine a strategist who can just phase through walls? I feel like that would personally make me feel better. I mainly do duelists and strategists, and there's, you know, the amount of times walls are just in the way of what I want to do. Sometimes. The reason why I'm actually including her is actually for a completely different character to have a space in, and that is for Lockheed. Apparently Kitty Pryde and Lockheed, they were homies until, you know, there was something that happened in the story, and I don't want to relay it just in case I might get it wrong. But, you know, I think it would be fun if Lockheed was Kitty Pryde's ult. So like she can just, oh, by the way, Lockheed is a dragon type creature. He can talk and everything. And you would think, you know, maybe you're thinking like, why not just have Lockheed be the, you know, character? I don't think that's fun, if that makes any sense. Like, I think it's more fun to play a combat character who could phase through walls and everything, and then your ult is just bringing a big dragon to set flames upon the land or something like that, or kidnap somebody, or, you know, maybe like them being a team up sort of situation is what I was really thinking about that. Like, I was thinking in the way of like, how can we make them team up in the game where she can have an edge of not only being able to use her intangibility, kind of like a assassin sort of character, or also being able to just summon a whole ass dragon. Like, that's super cool in my opinion. If Doctor Strange can have teleporting portals, right? Why can't we just have a dragon that can fly around the map? The next character, which I'm actually just surprised they haven't added or even haven't been leaked or anything like that, is Gambit. I'd heard about Gambit way before I even knew who Gambit was, and that's not even talking about now. I'm talking about even as a kid, as an X-Men, people were talking about Gambit. He's really popular, at least from the groups and people that I've heard, you know? And his whole thing is molecular acceleration. So essentially he can use a sort of molecular energy to infuse items, to accelerate them, and do all that fun stuff. And he's usually seen using that on playing cards, which is also super duper fun. And I think, of course, he would be a duelist in that case, but he can be able to, if I remember correctly, like curve them in the air and everything. So I feel like he would either be a sniper sort of character, or he could just be as annoying and deadly and in your face as how Psylocke is. Because those are the two types that I would think. Like, either he's sitting in the back and he's launching a card straight like a sniper rifle, or he's in your face throwing a bunch of cards straight in your face. I mean, I think either one would be really fun, honestly. The next person that I'm thinking about is Cecilia Reyes. I was thinking of her being a strategist. She decided to be a doctor based on what happened to her father when she was a child. She also has plasmic biofield, and she just, you know, field forces and everything. And I was thinking like bubbles, that's essentially what Magneto's already doing. She can do for herself. And I was thinking, like, what if we can just have a strategist do that too? Like a strategist who can bubble herself, or if the game wants to, you know, make a little tweak, bubble somebody else. But I think just having a strategist who already likes to do medical work, be able to bubble herself or just have a shield like that, will also just play into the role of being a strategist to protect yourself, to survive as long as possible within a clutch, obviously. The next person I think that I just want to add in will be Marrow. So Marrow, she can do skeletal growth, but to the point that her bones are even stronger, and she can use them as weapons, like literally take them out and use them as like a club or a sword or something, which is super cool. And I think just having a person who could use those type of abilities or just be able to do projectiles that way is relatively adjacent to what Hela is doing. Now, obviously, devs, if you're taking my ideas, please have some more creativity on what the characters could do. Obviously, she could use a sword, a shield, projectiles. Like, Marrow could be versatile. But the other thing is the fact that she technically has 2 hearts, and another reason why I think she'll be not only a good duelist but also just fun to add to the game is the type of dialogue she could have potentially between her and Storm, or everybody, because she was technically like a villain for a lot of people. So she was in the way, but Storm once ripped out one of her hearts because she has 2 hearts. And she ripped out one of the hearts. And I just want to hear the dialogue between that. I don't know why, but Storm, the badass that she is, ripped out one of Mero's hearts. Mero obviously survived because she has another heart and potentially regenerative powers. I think that's what it said too. So I just want to know what that dialogue would be. I'm here for that tea. The next person I want to add or suggest to the game would be Moonstar. So Moonstar is an empathic illusion caster. And I think the one thing that gave her an edge before I almost kicked her off the list, by the way, is the fact that she has something called a death sense. So not only can she do illusions and be able to mess with people that way, because she can create like 3D holographic images. She usually conjures people's fears and everything. She's kind of like adjacent to telepathy. I did some reading, guys. I did do some reading, but she has a death sense. And I think that would be great as a strategist, that you can have an edge of seeing someone have be on the verge of death, right? And if Adam Warlock can have a revive sort of ult, I feel as though Moonstar can have something adjacent, but not as a full ult, like more as the sense of you see one of your teammates about to die and you go, not you, you know? Like what if like on your team you have that one person who is on the point and you're like, survive, you just give them a second chance or something like, or just a slightly extended. The same way that Venom has that E ability to, I don't know if it's E. Okay. But I'm pretty sure it's E, his ability E to extend his health just a little bit once it gets a little too low. That's what I mean. I'm not saying you get like a full bar of health all of a sudden necessarily, or maybe you do, I don't know. But Moonstar can give whoever that she chooses, that is like same way that like Luna Snow has that E ability to have someone be healed once you select them. I'm saying Moonstar does that. She selects somebody and then she can tell when that death sense is, or because of the one selection, that death sense then can be activated upon potential death or super low or whatever. It's just a little buff. So I think Moonstar will be best with a buff. Either that or, well, what's the opposite of a buff? I forgot. But also because she has that illusion sort of thing, I feel like she would be a strategist who would be the almost opposite of Mantis, where she can do buffs for her team a lot and herself. I feel like Moonstar can do the opposite for the enemy team. Like, you know, taking their health down or putting a illusion on them. I'm forgetting the word and I'm not gonna look it up, whatever. I just think that would be cool as a strategist to really mess with them that way. The next person I would suggest is Lifeguard. Obviously they would be a Vanguard because they have danger detection response and situational biomorphic adaptation. So they can physically change their body. That's essentially what that means. You know, like I think it's Brett said there, like if she needed to swim, she could have her body change to have like fins or like scaly legs, or, you know, like it's biomorphic adaptation. So she can adapt to her biological and surroundings, or whatever the word I'm trying to say. I'm pretty sure you get it at this point. But she also has a danger detection response, which I think is pretty cool. So I think for the most part, she would play as, you know, like maybe as like the Things sort of kit that he has. It's not a lot. It's mainly punching or different variations of punching. But I think she would just have the ability to, let's say for the biomorphic adaptation, she'd be able to do something with that, with her surroundings. I'm not explaining it great. The vision was in my head. But also with the danger response, she'd be able to potentially protect whoever she needs to, specifically on her team. So I know a lot of the conversation is about telling Vanguards to turn around to the people behind you. You can't just keep pushing forward to take space all of the time, because sometimes you have to turn around to see what's going on with the rest of your team. You're at the front. So if you don't know what the rest of your team is doing, you could literally be by yourself and then getting yourself upset as to why the DPS aren't DPSing and why the strategists aren't healing. I feel like Lifeguard would be great for just being the one person who can identify who is in the most danger, who needs help, or something like that. Like, they are the one person to monitor the whole thing. I'm not saying that's what their entire kit is, but I think their danger detection response can play an actual role in the rival or the actual game itself. Or maybe she in the game can have an ability to be able to spread that to the whole team. Like, the whole team can do a sort of recon on the team or something like that, or a sort of team up with her to extend it to one of the strategists, so the strategist could get a better ping on who needs healing, something like that, while she's guarding your life, lifeguard. Another one that I wanted to do is kind of a duo, kind of like Cloak and Dagger. It is North Star and Aurora, and from what I read, technically at first they originally did need to work together, like holding hands for their powers to actually activate, because they're twins, and that's how all superpower twins, like the Wonder Twins. North Star and Aurora has the same power set, only a little bit of difference. They both can do flight, speed, photokinesis. They're photo light powers, essentially. They're stars, if you caught by the names. But I like the idea of being able to do a switch. Cloak and Dagger, you can switch between them. Emma Frost right now, you can switch between 2 different versions of her power sets. I think they will work well for the same reason. I put them as a strategist for this reason too. North Star, he mainly does just light blasts, concussive blasts at people. And then you have Aurora, who can do a more, meditative, more of a calming effect with her sort of light powers. You could say this is literally Cloak and Dagger in a way. It's not. But I feel like they would work well as either the new duelist, because we could put them as duelists because we don't have like a switching duelist as far as I can conjure in these last few seconds that I have in my attention span. As a strategist, it would work well too. Or either that or healing themselves. Like, let's say he switches to Aurora to heal himself. Or let's say that you can switch to Aurora to do a buff for your own team, and then you switch to North Star to be able to do mainly all the fighting. Like, you can balance it out that way too. I'm not against that, but my idea is that just another, I don't know, switching character, like switch ability character. I don't know, it's just fun. They're twins. The next person I'm going to submit is Boom Boom. She is another squirrel girl, legitimately. Like, she creates bombs, explosives, and also can change the scale that they are. So, she's another squirrel girl. And I think as a person who finds the value of playing Squirrel Girl, but also hates playing against Squirrel Girl, I get it. Just add another one. Let's just add another one. Let's not take Squirrel out. Just add a different version, okay? You got Squirrel Girl flying bombs. Well, I got mines. What it is. It is what it is. But clearly she would be a duelist. Boom Boom would be a duelist in this case. The next person of who I think would do very well as a Vanguard would be Dust. Almost read out her ability. Her name is Dust. She has sand form. Essentially, what I envisioned was Storm, but with sand. But I think Dust can do a little bit more, because she can do, she can have like regenerative abilities to keep herself alive in the midst of all her fantastic power. And I'm not saying Storm can't do that, but I think Dust, I think she would be another good Vanguard in that sense of this sheer amount of power that she has. And I like the idea of playing around with what a Vanguard can do. I know we need more Vanguards with a simple shield. Okay, we don't need more dive characters. We need another Magneto. We need another Magneto. We need another Doctor Strange. We need a shield bearer. I know. I think Dust can potentially do that. I'm submitting that Dust can be the Storm who can also have a sand shield of some sort, or maybe like a sand wall or something. Like, maybe she can be also like a Groot character, just putting sand walls everywhere. I just want to submit that Dust, I think, would be a powerful choice to add as a Vanguard based on the type of power set that she has. She's super strong. She has sand powers, which seems minuscule next to the word storm, but sandstorms exist. That team up will be crazy, actually. That will be a crazy team up. I'm submitting that Storm team up with Dust as well. And I'm going to also submit Rock Slide as my next duelist. So I think Rock Slide should be a duelist the same way that Mr. Fantastic is a duelist. He can explode and reform. And I'm not saying that he needs to essentially be a vanguard in the form of a duelist, but that's how I feel about Mr. Fantastic anyway, that he practically is a vanguard, but you're playing him as a duelist, so whatever. But I do think that Rock Slide will work in the same fashion. So if anybody has any sort of more suggestions as to how Rock Slide can operate, because I just think he's more like the Thing, who can actively make himself explode and then reform and then punch things and everything. And I think that could be used a lot more. Like, I don't want to say that his ult is just exploding. Let's say, and I don't know if this is me misremembering what it said, but I think he should be able to have the ability to explode different parts of himself, like control that separately. If not, pay attention to the lore of the actual comics, stick with that. I could just be misremembering, but can you imagine him being able to shoot off his arm like a projectile or something like that and then reform it? Like that's what I'm getting at. And then his ult can be literally to just explode. Sure, we have Scarlet Witch doing that already, so it is what it is. Just give him like a and then the next person I'm thinking is Triage. Now, he's apparently relatively new, and I had to go on a completely different web page to figure out what he actually did. I just wanted to know how I did the search for these characters. Really was just show me a list and I'll choose who seems kind of cool based on their name. In Triage, he does life force manipulation, and in his description it is suspected that he might be immortal as well, or have immortality because of the type of abilities he has. His abilities comes from when Jean Grey awoke the abilities of a lot of different mutants out there, right? And he would work best as a strategist. And he does healing, reanimation, and regeneration. And I'm thinking, based on exactly what that sounds like, life force manipulation, reanimation, regeneration, this man is a necromancer. At least that's what I heard. I'm not saying that's how his character plays it or anything, but he is relatively, in my opinion, a necromancer. And I think that would also be really cool. And not only to just be a strategist, but you know how Loki can steal other people's abilities? I think, now hear me out, I think that a cool combination for this character is either to have an ability that essentially Rocket and Adam Warlock sort of already have to revive somebody immediately who has been down, or have the person who has supposedly died and be an option to animate as. Like, you see someone KO, or is someone you KO as the strategist, you be able to take their abilities for a second or something like that. Like something cool where, because someone's died, like using the knockout position of someone else can be your advantage. So you're looking for people to be knocked out, so then you can go take advantage or something as a strategist. And I think it would work best as a strategist, because can you imagine doing that as a duelist or a vanguard? I feel like that would be a little bit OP and used kind of crazy. I think the reason why Loki is able to take abilities, or strategists are able to revive, is because if it was put in a position of a duelist or a vanguard, it would get absolutely insane. And maybe we need some insanity. I'm welcoming it, but I think Triage being able to do that as a necromancer sort of mindset, I feel like would be really cool. Either that, or he'll just be able to revive somebody really quickly too. Just another option for that. All right, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more submissions. 5, okay? I think I had 19 in total. So the next person I'm suggesting is also going to be a vanguard, and his name is Gentle. and he's gentle. And I had to find out why. Apparently, he can temporarily increase his muscle mass. So he has like super strength, but his super strength is always increasing every single time he uses his ability. He is literally known for only using his ability for emergencies. He's gentle and passive, pacifist maybe, in the way he is as a person. So he's not super aggressive. He's actually really nice. He doesn't like to use his power as a super duper bunch. He actually has tattoos made out of is it vibranium? Wakandan vibranium, I think that's what it is. Holding on my arm like I got the tattoos, to help with his ability too, because at some point his muscle and strength are going to get so much it's going to get past that vibranium tattoos that he has to help contain that or help mitigate it. And the best way to put it is that Muscular Man from My Hero Academia, but it's gentle and he can't stop. That's another submission, and he only does it out of emergencies. And I think based on the lore of the game right now, where everything is in flux and timelines and you're fighting each other for the sake of, saving something, this seems like an emergency. So I feel like he would still be valid within this whole game. I think it'd be fun as a Vanguard or something. Grow your muscles all the time. Why not? Hear me out for this one. Another person who I would submit as a Vanguard is Angel. Now I know. Whoa. Now I know he flies. He literally has wings. He has a lot of strength, by the way, based on what I read. He's super duper strong. And there's a couple of reasons why I think he would be fun to see if it would work as a Vanguard. Is yes, I want to see if a flying Vanguard would work. Objectively, it doesn't. Objectively, immediately, instinctual reaction is to be like, how are you going to protect your team in the sky? Don't be the only Vanguard, okay? Like, this won't work necessarily unless your team is cracked or you have like another Mr. Fantastic or somebody like that. But I feel like Angel would work as a Vanguard. And maybe even just be the Vanguard of the skies, okay? Get all the other flyers out of the sky sort of situation. But also he has an Archangel form. And I feel like if there was any reason that he had to be on the ground, and maybe this could be a dual sort of switch to, kind of like Cloak and Dagger, like that L shift switch to the next person sort of thing. I feel like Angel should be able to go into his Angel or Archangel form and then maybe even use his wings as a shield, because his wings can be like techno, like half techno something another. I forgot the specific term, but like he got essentially a wings buff after his original wings were either damaged or stolen. And that was part of the lore of his character. And I feel like his Archangel form is a little bit stronger. Maybe that could be an alt, or maybe that could be the switch there too, just temporarily or something like that, as a shield where he could just hold his wings out and be the shield entirely. Who knows how they may coordinate that. But I want to play around with the idea of a Vanguard that can fly, because in my fullest opinion, if you can have characters like Venom who can be flying around, or Hawk who can be flying around and everything and jumping around and leaping, I feel like a Vanguard that just mainly is in the sky, or at least hovering above the ground, can work to some extent. I feel like there is room to believe that can work. Let me dream. Okay. Also, I heard that Angel and Storm had a fling or something like that. So I think that dialogue would be fun. Storm's got a lot of dialogue I want to hear with different people. I just want to know, The next person who I'm submitting is Loa. So she does molecular distortion. And like Shadowcat, Kitty Pryde, she can also phase through walls, but she is not intangible necessarily. She does molecular distortion, which means that when she moves through objects, they like crumble and stuff around her. So she's good at hand-to-hand combat. She would be a duelist as well, but I'm thinking that she would navigate either the same as what I said about Kitty Pryde in a way, or in a way that like Scarlet Witch is, to dissolve things, to literally dissolve. Maybe she'll have like a string, like I doubt she'll have that string craziness, but I like this idea of what you could potentially do with a character who can immediately dissolve things. I feel like she would be the character, which may seem boring, but I think is also necessary, to be the person to break the board. Like, she's the one who can instantaneously start breaking things, breaking the board, breaking the walls around you, breaking whatever she needs to break around you to really set this, the stage correctly. I feel like she's that character. Of course, she should be able to combat and fight and everything. Maybe she has I'm trying to think of an ult ability, but I don't know. And I do not think that her ult ability will work without her touching people. So that's the one little block that I personally have, unless they want to make a change. But if she touches you, she can crumble you. So this isn't just physical matter around us, it's also organic matter. So she can literally crumble anything that she touches as she wants. And I think that has a particular role that could be really, really useful as a duelist, a combat duelist as well. But it's gonna be like that. I feel like Loa is a reach. I think Loa is somebody I want to see be in here doing something, but I just don't know how to place her, because I think the one thing I really want her to do is be able to be that form of just straight up destruction, or just give her like, I don't know, a weapon. Not to say that she doesn't already use a weapon. I didn't get that far into like what her weapons she might use or how her combat style is, but I know that's what she does, and I think that'd be really, really cool. All right, 2 more. So one person who I think would be really, really cool would be Shatterstar. They're really a swordsman, a dual wielding swordsman, and they also have enhanced physical and mental abilities and powers. So I think they would be great with being a duelist, and also another option on how to use swords and weapons in the game. And also, I just like the idea of having more characters who can do, I like the idea of characters being able to do more either close range or mid-range sort of attacks. And I like the idea that potentially Shatterstar could be a dive character, another dive character sort of thing, or be a person who can fight directly with the vanguards themselves. Like, for example, the way that, Magic could do the same thing. Like, Magic can fight other vanguards too, but it takes a little bit while because of how much health that they have. So I'm thinking Shatterstar would be another person who can be able to go up against the vanguards. That's my idea. That's why they're a duelist in my opinion, but they'll be able to do larger swings or that extra sort of hits when it comes to that. I'm not saying, I wonder if Blade will be able to do the same sort of thing too. But Shatterstar is going to be the person that everybody uses to dive on the freaking strategist. So which is why I wanted some other strategists with the other ideas I have. And the last submission that I have is kind of a loop, but I think it would be really meta if you just give it some time to cook in your brain, okay? Glob Herman, okay? He is living wax, and his whole thing is that he's flammable, and he can also fling things up off of himself. Like, he can fling pieces of himself off. So not only can he, without being on fire, fling like particles at you, and that hurts, but also if he is on fire, he's just flaming projectiles, and he's fine, by the way, but you're not. And then on top of that, he has strength, speed, and durability, like heightened strength, speed, and durability, as well as he's just essentially invulnerable to bombs and explosives. And this is my immediate thought, and this is the reason why I think he would be the greatest clutch. He is the answer to Squirrel Girl. He's the answer to Squirrel Girl. I promise. He is literally the direct answer to Squirrel Girl. If you go based on what the lore is for his character, Squirrel Girl cannot just immediately or even accidentally kill him. And I think we need some of that. Okay, here I go again, making a video longer than what I expected, but I think it'd be a fun video to edit. So those are my thoughts right now. Let me know down below. I think my submissions would be worth hearing out. Marvel, let me know. Okay, studio that makes Marvel Rivals games, please go ahead and steal my ideas. Okay, just go ahead and steal my ideas. I'll be all right. But with that being said, do you agree? Do you disagree? What are your thoughts? Did I get it all wrong? Let me know. Would all my suggestions just ruin the game entirely? No. Okay, I don't see you coming up with ideas. So like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Okay. Bye.